It's time for Red Flags and Reality. Welcome back to Red Flags and Reality, the part of the show where we take the headlines you might scroll past and turn them into lessons that can actually keep you safer. Tonight, we're in the before stage of the timeline with my guest, Dawn Armstrong, looking at everyday vigilance, those small habits that stop you from ever becoming a target. Our first story, teen girl killed after months of stalking. Let's start in Cranford, New Jersey. Two teenage girls, both 17, were out riding e-bikes when a car deliberately ran them down. Horrific. What made this worse is what came out after. The driver had been stalking one of the girls for months. Neighbors saw him hanging around. He'd been showing up at her school. Sure, people noticed, but the dots weren't connecting until after the tragedy. The lesson here, the before stage is simple but heavy. Stalking is not just annoying. If someone repeatedly shows up in your orbit, outside your home, at your work, or at your school, it's not a coincidence, that's persistence. And creepy persistence is one of the big red flags we can train ourselves to notice before the crash. The time to act is when the pattern starts, not after the attack. Now to Pennsylvania. A 24-year-old man suspected of stalking his ex escalated in the worst way. He broke into her home and hid inside. When police showed up to help her, he ambushed them, killing 3 officers. That's not just escalation, that's tactical preparation. But here's the before lesson. The warning signs weren't the gunshots, they were the stalking behaviors ahead of time. Surveillance, forced entry, obsessive presence. Those are not creepy but harmless, they are the early chapters of violence. If you or someone you know is being followed, pressured, or monitored, don't minimize it. Don't wait to see how bad it gets. It only takes one night for the quiet red flag to explode. Over to Danbury, Connecticut. A man was arrested for electronically stalking his neighbor. He was moving her security cameras, tampering with her stuff, and recording all of her movements. Think about how invasive that feels. You walk outside and realize someone's been manipulating your home defenses just to remind you that they are in control. Predators test boundaries incrementally. They move a camera, shift a garbage can, send you a strange message just to see what they can get away with. If nothing happens, they push further. That's why everyday vigilance matters. You don't have to freak out over every weird neighbor, but when someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, even in small ways, it's time for you to enforce those boundaries. Now let's zoom out a little bit. In Queensland, Australia, courts have seen more than 7,600 stalking prosecutions in just 3 years. A massive increase. Police warn in many of these cases, stalking was the warm-up before domestic violence or physical assault. We're not talking here about isolated weirdos. This is a pattern, and it's global. Technology makes stalking easy, but vigilance makes it harder for the stalkers to succeed. And off to the world of research, stalking hurts more than safety. And here's the kicker. It's not just about immediate violence. A recent study published in Circulation found women who'd been stalked or had restraining orders faced higher risks of heart disease and stroke years later. Stress literally carves grooves into your body. That's the last lesson. Ignoring the before signs doesn't just risk one violent moment, it risks your long-term health. Chronic stress from boundary violations eats away at your well-being. When you practice everyday vigilance, documenting, reporting, shutting down boundary testing, you're not just preventing violence, you're protecting your long-term health. All right, now let's get to our guest.